Why have we chosen to call our channel If by Whiskey? If by Whiskey is the name of a speech that was given in Mississippi back in the 1950s. At that time, Mississippi was a dry state, meaning no alcoholic beverages could be bought or sold, although plenty was bought and sold under the table. In the whiskey speech, as it came to be known, a state legislator by the name of Noah Soggy Sweat spoke eloquently and passionately, in the first part of the speech making a compelling case against alcohol, and in the second part of the speech making an equally compelling case in favor of alcohol. Let's take a listen.
My friends, I had not intended to discuss this controversial issue at this particular time. However, I want you to know that I do not shun controversy. On the contrary, I will take a stand on any issue at any time, regardless of how fraught with controversy it might be. You have asked me how I feel about whiskey. All right, here's how I feel about whiskey. If, when you say whiskey, you mean the devil's brew, the poison scourge, the bloody monster that defiles innocence, dethrones reason, destroys homes, creates misery and poverty, yea, literally takes the bread from the mouths of little children. If you mean the evil drink that topples Christian man and woman from the pinnacle of righteous, gracious living into the bottomless pit of degradation and despair and shame and helplessness and hopelessness, then I certainly am against it. But if when you say whiskey, you mean the oil of conversation, the philosophic wine, the ale that is consumed when good fellows get together, that puts a song in their hearts and laughter on their lips and the warm glow of contentment in their eyes, if you mean Christmas cheer, if you mean that stimulating drink that puts a spring in the old gentleman's step on a frosty, crispy morning, if you mean that drink which enables a man to magnify his joy and happiness and to forget, if only for a little while, all of life's great tragedies and heartaches and sorrows, if you mean that drink, the sale of which pours into our treasuries untold millions of dollars, which are used to provide tender care for our little crippled children, our blind, our deaf, our dumb, our pitiful aged and infirm, to build highways and hospitals and schools, then certainly I am for it. This is my stand. I will not retreat from it, and I will not compromise.
In reality, Soggy Sweat was in favor of alcohol. But you can't really tell that from the speech because he shows an understanding and even a sympathy for both sides of the debate. The term if by whiskey was later adopted as the name of a logical fallacy, otherwise known as a relativist fallacy, where some set of facts are presumed to be true for one person, but not true for someone else. I don't believe that the speech is a good example of a relativist fallacy, or any fallacy for that matter. It is a good example of how many of the questions we face today have no easy answers.
In his book, Mindware, Richard Nisbet tells us that here in the Western world, we have a tradition of using critical thinking and the rules of logic to determine what is true and what is false. If a proposition that we'll call A is true, then not A must be false. It's right or wrong, no middle ground. And so we become attached to our own opinions and beliefs, and we defend them with a nearly religious fervor. Confirmation bias is at work everywhere, and no one seems to be immune. In the cultures of East Asia, with roots in Confucianism, there is no tradition of formal logic, but something quite different that we can call dialectical reasoning, the sense that there must be some truths to each of two contradictory statements. Both of these two ways of thinking can lead us to bad ideas and misperceptions.
I'm not an expert at anything. I'm just a person with questions. Are there things that we all take for granted that just aren't true? Are we worrying and fighting about things that are really not important? And are we paying no attention to things that are actually mortal threats? I suspect that the answer to these questions is yes. We face complex and integrated problems. Can they all be simplified down to left versus right? Liberal versus conservative? Is this way of thinking even helpful at all? Or does it guarantee that we will fail to come up with solutions?
For example, why do we use the gross domestic product, or GDP, as our primary guiding metric, when doing so produces so many bad results and aligns so poorly with the things that we know are truly valuable? Some things that add to the GDP include more prisons, more weapons, more drugs, or anything that costs money. Things that reduce the GDP include good health, volunteerism, growing your own food, or anything that doesn't cost money. And why do we spend so much money on researching expensive cures for diseases and so little money on how to prevent people from getting sick in the first place?
What are the real problems facing us? What solutions are possible? Who can we join with to make things better for ourselves, the people in our lives, and the people of the world? These are some of the questions that, with your help, we want to explore in this channel.